Luxurify. To apply pleasure, satisfaction, or ease to a product or service, usually by adding jewels and/or precious metals, or by raising the price to levels uncomfortable for middle or lower income households. We strive to keep our viewers educated on all things luxury, so let's educate you on 10 of the most expensive drum sets in the world. We will set roots down with the number 10 drum kit on the list, which was used live and in studio by Amir Thompson, or known famously as Questlove. This 60s era 5-piece drum set was auctioned off for $30,240 and was used live on stage between 1994 and 1999 and was used in the studio for the Roots albums of that time, which included Philadelphia Half-Life, Do You Want More, and Things Fall Apart. Growing up in a musical family in Philadelphia, Questlove started playing the drums at a young age and by his teens was analyzing the backing beats on his parents' vast record collection. He was able to offer an iconic drum track at any time thanks to his extensive knowledge of the funk, soul, rock, and R&B drum styles. This allowed the Roots to skip the usage of sampled drum tracks, which other hip-hop musicians frequently used and, of course, had to credit and pay for. Having a musical prodigy in your band will lead to a lot of success and opportunities, and this was the case for the Roots, having been the house band for NBC's late night and tonight shows since 2009. Perhaps some of that drumming influence came from one of jazz music's most influential drummers, Buddy Rich, whose 9-piece Slingerland drum set takes the number 9 position on our list. Buddy gave away many drum sets, including this one that was auctioned off for the meager price of $37,500, but he usually kept his snares. This kit has one of the early 5 snares, which were drilled by hand. It has been polished and buffed to an excellent condition and kept in a padded case. In fact, the majority of the drums come in Buddy Rich orchestra cases from a world tour in the 1970s, complete with stickers from various places. This drum set is identical to the one that is pictured on the album Very Live at Buddy's place. There is a double set of spurs and the double wing nuts on the cymbal mount. The interior of the shells are all double lacquered. Rich was known for his virtuoso technique, power, and speed, and learned to play drum parts by listening to them and reciting them from memory, as he did not read sheet music. Typically, wealth and luxury have a certain smell to them, akin to the new car smell, brand new leather, a Gucci-like smell. This next drum set, however, breaks the rich people mold with a brand new drum kit smelling like 50-year aged balsamic vinegar. That is correct. So, welcoming you to the number 8 spot is Italian-manufactured Musa custom drum kit made from the barrels of that balsamic vinegar. Yum! The company says it took 6 months to complete the production of this set, and it had a range of craftsmen used to construct it. With a price tag of $70,000, there are several unique characteristics to justify the cost, such as a gorilla placed on the bands of the drums, representing gorillas pounding on their chest. While not quite asserting a gorilla's musical genius, it still is an applicable reference. Classic jazz is represented on these drums by the Buddy Rich skull replica on the drum's lugs. These lugs, according to Musa, are a reproduction of Buddy's actual cranium. And the Daft Punk helmet that is used on the lugs on the 2 snare drums represents the digital age that music is now engulfed by. At number 7 is a trap set used in the supergroups Asia and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. The Brits have solidified their dominance in rock music, as will be seen later on. English drummer Carl Palmer has a lot to do with this. Palmer enrolled in drum classes when he was a small child. He studied with James Blades, Britain's most well-known classical percussionist of the 20th century, who unquestionably made a significant contribution to his excellent technique, sense of composition, and proficiency with the whole range of percussion instruments. This custom-built steel drum kit was owned by Ringo Starr and was auctioned off for $75,000. It was constructed in 1973 by Paul Raven, a jeweler who engraved elaborate woodland images onto each drum. Palmer claims that engravings he noticed on a hunting rifle gave him the idea to personalize his drum set. Palmer played the drums when traveling with Emerson, Lake and Palmer in the 1970s. At the time, the kit also contained a church bell, a xylophone, and gongs, making the whole thing weigh 2.5 tons. One of the driving factors for the successful auction of these drums was that this kit was custom to the point that a drum manufacturer didn't even produce it. It was created entirely by 8 different engineering companies. A movie titled The Song Remains the Same is responsible for number 6 on our list, as the drum set in that film was used by John Bonzo Bonham, the drummer of Led Zeppelin, the film based on their 1973 Madison Square Garden concert. This drum kit was used by the greatest drummer of all time. In tandem with Jimmy Page, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, Led Zeppelin was, for a solid decade, the biggest band on the planet. Unfortunately, John succumbed to his alcohol abuse, which then disbanded them as the pain from losing their brother set in. John left a legacy with this acrylic drum set, which is why it was auctioned off for $106,250. The kit is a scaled-down version of Bonham's iconic Vista Light kit, which he used while touring with Led Zeppelin, and was set up primarily for his son Jason to learn on while at their home in Old Hyde Farm, Worcester. At number 5 is a name we've heard already, that of Buddy Rich. He once had a Ludwig white pearl drum kit he played on the set of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Later owned by Carson and set up in his home, Rich was a frequent guest on the show and performed drum-offs with house band drummer Ed Shaughnessy. Carson was an accomplished drummer himself, but was of course best known for his skills as a comedian and host of the NBC late-night staple. This drum set was amazingly auctioned off for $113,750 in April of 2021, at a time when the world was in a chaotic state. But then again, when you have 2 legends banging on this set, it's bound to increase in value. When it comes to value, The Who provided it to its fans. The number 4 position is held by the band's long-deceased drummer, Keith Moon. The premier 5-piece drum set sold for $252,487 in 2004 at Christie's of London. Made in 1968, this kit features a chrome finish, 2 floor toms, 2 mounted toms, 2 bass drum spurs, and a mounted tom-tom post. Keith Moon used this set from 1968 to 1970 on a variety of occasions, such as The Who's US tour, the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, and Woodstock, which took place from June 16th to the 18th, 1969. This kit was custom made for Keith Moon and was re-chromed prior to the auction sale. Although missing their beloved drummer since 1978, The Who was able to continue through the years with supply drummers such as Zach Starkey, son of Ringo Starr, whom we might see later on. Just saying. Zach has been playing for The Who since 1996 and affectionately referred to Moon as Uncle Keith. If money hasn't been an issue for the last 7 drum sets, perhaps these next 3 might break the bank, because at $500,000, Slingerland and a lot of chrome partnered up with Neil Peart's drum set to take in the number 3 spot on the list. Neil Peart, the drummer of the Canadian band Rush and also their songwriter, used this set for recordings and live performances between 1974 and 1979. This kit was signed by Peart himself and was originally purchased at Long & McQuaid in Toronto in 1974, shortly after he joined the band. This set was put up for auction, expected to get between $104,000 to $157,000, but shattered that expectation, selling for $500,312. Neil Peart's unfortunate passing to cancer in 2020 certainly drove this price up, But what was more of a factor was Neil's excellent drumming ability, as is widely mentioned within the industry. Coming in at number 2 and at $2.2 million is a Ludwig Oyster Black Pearl drum set. Not just any set, but Ringo Starr's used with the Beatles from 1963 to 1964. He used this kit in over 200 performances and used it to record several early Beatles hits, including Can't Buy Me Love, She Loves You, and I Want to Hold Your Hand. This drum kit hasn't been seen in public for over 50 years before its sale, and it was also used on Paul McCartney's first solo album in 1970. Perhaps you might be wondering who shelled out this much money for this legendary set. And it may not come as a surprise to many that Jim Irsay, owner of the Indianapolis Colts, put in the winning bid. Not surprising because Jim is a collector of some famous musical instruments like Dave Gilmour's $3.9 million Black Strat, which can be viewed above in our popular video of the most expensive guitars in the world. But don't click off just yet or you'll miss the number 1 most expensive drum kit in the world, which is this 813-piece set valued at $3 million. The owner, Mark Temperato, has spent 36 years constructing this set, beginning in 1971. It weighs 2.5 US tons, which is 5,000 pounds, and features pieces from more than 50 different manufacturers and takes an hour to assemble. It's not only 1 hour for assembly, but it also takes 1 hour to hit every piece. And in true luxury fashion, maintenance is intense as it requires 17 hours each week. You've learned a new word. You've learned that drumming can be quite expensive. Why don't you continue this free learning by subscribing to the channel and becoming a weekly student of luxury? This is Luxury a Lust. Toodles!